is about succession plans for businesses, particularly in Africa. What is the plan for these businesses when they look to live past their founders? Also for ultra high net worth families, or even wealthy families, and maybe even middle class families. What is the plan for them in terms to when it comes to wealth planning and inheritance and so on and so forth? We have a special guest with us to discuss that, Mr. Theodore Albright of the Family Office Africa. He is with us on the show. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm really delighted to be here.
I'm happy to have you as well. You're a wealth of knowledge in this sector, and so we're happy to have you on the show. In Nigeria, you're visiting.
Yes.
You were just here for what, a summit?
So we're here for the Africa Family Business Summit.
Fantastic.
Which was held at the Marriott Hotel over a 3-day period.
Yeah.
And it involved all manner of family businesses coming together to look at founder generation, next gen, and how we can avoid what is considered a curse, which is the 3-generation curse. Most businesses don't survive beyond the 3rd generation. In Africa, it really doesn't survive beyond the 1st generation. So that's the issue. Is
it a lack of awareness? Is it a lack? What's missing? Why don't they last past the 3rd generation?
Governance.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. So the founder's wishes need to be solidified, codified, and we need to be very clear what the founder wants. Does he want to cash out, or does he want the business to live beyond him or her? If that's the case, then what structures do you put in place? Those structures need to be codified, and that gives you your governance.
What kind of what's the experience been like? You're based in Accra?
Yes.
Okay, and you got offices elsewhere? That's where the main office is.
That's where the main office is. But prior to relocating to Accra, I lived and worked in Guernsey in the Channel Islands, and prior to that, lived and worked in England.
Oh, nice,
London,
nice.
Yeah.
So what have you observed? Is as far as the governance issues that you've raised, what's been the challenge for most of these businesses? What's been your experience been like?
So this supposed curse applies across the globe. It's not peculiar to Africa.
Okay.
But it's more endemic here because we have difficulty, or founders have difficulty having that discussion on how do we pass the business on or grow the business beyond the 1st generation. And often it's because of a mindset or a culture or just a fear, an inherent fear. Once you start to talk about estate planning, having a will, having succession in place, the notion is, do you want to kill me or do you want to do me in? And so that becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And sometimes the environment is so volatile that you can't take a breath.
Yeah.
You can't stop to think, what do we do beyond today, or what do we do beyond next week?
What about the interest? Okay, because I want to get to businesses, but let me just stick with the families for now. The interest of the 3rd generation. So basically, kids who take no interest in what their parents are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how do we solve for that?
Oh, that's not an issue at all.
Yeah.
So when you look at Hermes or Ford or Mercedes, and Barclays, they started off as family businesses, and then went on to IPOs, and these families hold stock in these businesses. So if the 3rd generation is not interested, that's not a problem, because you can have fragment ownership from control from management. Ownership being shareholding, control being the board, management being exec. And you can disaggregate these 3 circles and address each one separately. Some people may not want control, sit on the board, management, work in the business. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
They can still own, buy shares, or have it in some structure like a foundation or indeed a trust.
Fantastic. Do you have folks coming to you, or do you have to go out there and find them when it comes to being able to spread the kind of awareness of these services that
on the continent of Africa, you have to go out and look for folks and interact with folks for 3 reasons. First reason is you need to create awareness that we exist, and you need to create awareness about continuity. Second reason is a matter of confidentiality. People do not like to share. They much rather ship it off to Guernsey, Jersey, Isle of Man, Singapore, BVI, or indeed Cayman Islands. where they're not known. And the third issue is a matter of trust.
Right.
And these three issues take time to evolve and incubate. And so quite often, what I've seen where I'm sitting, I see people coming out of London, jump off a plane, engage clients, and go back to London, or go back to Jersey, or go back to Guernsey, or go back to Singapore. That's usually what happens. Or indeed, Mauritius, which is just around the corner. That's indeed what happens.
So we have our Southern African markets, and every time Mauritius is one of the markets, along with Zimbabwe, South Africa, and I always say I want to go visit.
Yeah.
It's a tourist delight, is it not?
Yes, it is a paradise.
Oh
yes.
my good, I gotta go. So as far as the process from the beginning when you start the conversation to, do you move the money around, or do you just tell them, how everything should be structured? How does that process work?
So classically, what I've seen, and this has been my experience, and my previous experience had been with Saudi princes and Forbes list, and
those are big clients.
Really big clients.
Okay.
I mean, people will say to you, "Can I land my jet on your runway, or do I have to go into London to come into Guernsey?" So typically, they give you a slice.
Right.
And so you get a peep, but you don't get to see the whole show. That's one.
Okay.
And two, in Africa, or in Ghana and other African countries, the starting conversation is normally about the board.
Aha, okay.
Okay, so that is what they'll start you with. Theodore, can you come and give us instruction on how to organize the board?
Right.
Once the board is in place, then you might go down one step to look at business strategy, leadership, governance, and so on. Or you might go up one step to say, look, we're three families, we own 20 businesses. What do we do? How do we structure? And you begin to bring some structure in place. And the starting point then is family governance. So as well as having governance on the board side, which is the professional side, you also need to have governance on the family side. Who is family? Who inherits? If it's a Muslim family, for example, and they're using Sharia law, 1:2. 1 for the girl child, 2 for the boy child. Okay, but the girl child might be cleverer than the boy. So how do I structure it so that there's equanimity or there's equity?
Yeah.
There is that. And then how do I look at asset protection?
Gotcha.
Very wealthy. You got a gold digger who wants to come in. And it might be a he or she. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
How do we put some structures in place so that they don't just come in,
just scoop it all up,
take it away, and take it away?
Yeah.
Or the child might be incompetent.
Right, to put it politely.
So you need to manage that child, who is an adult now,
right?
So that they don't fritter the money away. Or the child wants to get into
cryptocurrencies.
Oh, thank you very much. And so Elon Musk, God bless him, buys 1.2 or $2 billion. If Elon is buying, then we should all be buying. But he's a market maker.
Right.
So he pumps in and then he dumps.
Right.
All right. And my crypto was 60, now it's 20, it's 10. I should have bought when it was 10. And so sometimes you need to protect people from themselves or from relationships and protect them when they are immature. So there's asset protection, there's confidentiality.
Family therapy? Because it looks like you're wearing several hats.
And indeed, there's some coaching going on, but truthfully, coaching is not therapy and therapy is not coaching.
Right.
But you will find yourself becoming consigliere, like Tom in The Godfather, for example, giving advice. Some will take, some won't take.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. Look, I'm glad you mentioned Elon Musk because there's an issue with this big pay package he's supposed to be getting. And the judge, he's supposed to be getting at $56 billion in some agreement that was struck with Tesla shareholders years ago. The judge has put a hold on it because he says his board is not really independent. Why? His brother is on the board. They've got a number of other each people on the board. Who constitutes the board from what you... Is it the family members?
So the shareholders...
So it can be outside people?
Yes. But this is the thing. Shareholders in your classic corporate structure, the shareholders are the ones who either nominate or approve the directors at AGM.
Right.
So you can the board can give nominations, but the shareholders will then approve the directors. And so from inception, for example, the shareholders will appoint the directors. And if you have several shareholders, then it becomes an issue of which which director represents which shareholder.
Right.
And then when you expand it, say it's a big institution, as a company quoted on a stock exchange, and you have institutional investors like pension funds, etc., they will put their activist, independent shareholders to board members to represent them. But typically with family businesses, it's a little bit incestuous, but there is ample evidence to show that if you bring in independent directors, then you don't have groupthink, and then you're able to avoid everybody thinking the same, and then all of us thinking the same.
Right.
That independence, that independent voice or voice of independence brings what you call positive tension within the boardroom. And that's healthy and that's good because you get to trust things out before you settle. What you don't want, yes, massa or yes, boss in the boardroom. That will kill the business.
Gotcha. So on the family side, does proper succession planning then avoid squabbles? Do you still have to, mitigate family squabbles with respect to putting things in place?
Life is never fair. So if you're a Muslim family and you have a girl child who's cleverer than a boy, and there's a sense of entitlement within the family, question mark, that might raise issues. And sometimes the mode of inheritance, so for example, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, the law has been changed, but prior to that, it went to the man, irrespective of whether it was the firstborn or not. And that's changed. So different families have different value systems as to how they want succession to go. Some will put it all in a trust fund or some structure, a foundation, and then the beneficiaries will be discretionary beneficiaries. And so the trustees can decide on when and how and where you can get a feed of cash. Others will say, we don't want to disaggregate the wealth. And so only the firstborns will inherit. So firstborns inherit, the rest will be given a stipend. So it will just pass from firstborn to firstborn to firstborn. The rest will get a stipend. And by the time you get to generation 3, 4, 5, the wealth is concentrated because it compounds and you don't want it fractured.
Mr. Thomas Albright, managing partner of the Family Office Africa. This has been a fascinating conversation. I wish I actually had many more questions to ask you. I don't know, if you're in Nigeria again, I'm going to have you back, or maybe we talk to you via Zoom from Accra.
That would be wonderful.
Fantastic conversation.
The privilege is all mine.
For
it's
joining
been a pleasure
us on the Arise News channel.